Hello everyone, hope everyone's alright. Today we're going to be doing something a little different today. We're going to be looking at...
Hey everyone.
No, not that one.
I'm Richard Parker's son.
Not that one.
Hey! You're that spider guy on YouTube!
Not that one either.
Spider-Man.
A comic book. We're looking at an actual comic book, not just any comic book, but one of the most iconic comic books in history. Yes, The Amazing Spider-Man, or The Amazing Fantasy number 15. While the biggest theme of this origin was about a young man coming to grips about responsibility, it actually goes a lot deeper than that. Yeah, the story is about with great power comes great responsibility, meaning that we need to be careful and wise with the powers that we were inherited for the good of others and not use them selfishly.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
I realized a couple of things that we often overlooked. He's actually a guy who's often disrespected and overlooked by everyone else around him. It's actually a story about a guy who just wants some respect from others for the gifts he has and for who he is. You see, in the 1960s, the nerd was usually the bookworm. You know, the guy who always reads and studies. Then you got the jocks who are typically portrayed as big and strong. That's somewhat of the case even for today. But Peter Parker is the nerd who nobody wants to talk with or hang out with. He was a loner in the early issues of the comics. Whereas the films always seem to involve a love interest because according to Hollywood, you gotta have the romance. The early comics doesn't really involve a love interest, and that's what I kind of like about it. It doesn't involve anyone else, and it just focuses on Peter and his problems. He was just a simple guy who didn't have many friends and simply just wanted to be admired by others. The only people who ever gave him that was his Uncle Ben and Aunt May at home, but he was an outsider and unwanted from others. So by the time he gets bitten by the spider and becomes Spider-Man, the first thing he does is show off his powers. Go on television and become a wrestler. He's finally gotten some respect that he was constantly craving for that he couldn't get as Peter Parker. In the comics, it was explained why he wore a mask. Because if he failed to win in the wrestling match, he didn't want to be known or exposed of his identity since he's already known as a loser. When he won, a TV producer asked him to keep the mask on because it's great showmanship. As he does this, life gets better for him, or so he thinks. He finally got the respect and the admiration. Everything he wanted has been fulfilled. But then, as the iconic story faithfully told us these many years later, his Uncle Ben dies by the same guy he could have stopped earlier. This suggests a couple of things. He was only a guy looking for acceptance, but once he got into Spider-Man, he became intoxicated with the popularity of him being Spider-Man, which only made him care about himself. But he still cares about his family, who are the only ones in the world he wants to take care of. Just them, not anyone else. As a result of this, he loses one of the two people in his life who truly cares about him, learning that he needs to use his powers a lot more wisely and less selfishly, or be good to those who are only good to him. It is because of this trauma that he becomes the crime-fighting Spider-Man that we all know and love. Someone who will use his powers for anyone who needs him and not just use it for himself or those he likes. But even after he takes on the responsibility, he still struggles to figure out what his place or role is in all of this. Because in the comics, he lives in a universe where the Avengers are around, the X-Men are around, and the Fantastic Four are around. That's why he is the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, a small hero for the little guys.
Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
It's a simple but powerful short story that speaks volumes about how we need to use what we have for the sake of others. How we can't just use these powers for the glory of ourselves or the people we like, but for the people who really needs our help, whether if they want it or not. It doesn't always have to be superhero strength, but even kindness is power. Even though the story is well known, it's always a great thing to go back and relearn and notice these little things that we may have overlooked as time went on. Stan Lee wanted to create a superhero that's never been done before by doing one with a teenager, which really hasn't been done before, and made the character relatable through his problems and struggles, not just to teenagers, but to everyone. But as The Amazing Fantasy number 15 has told us these many years, we need to be responsible with great power by using it for the good of others.
You'll find the spider.